All right, folks, welcome aboard. Big show, big day, lots going on. And, of course, Ebola is front and center. And we're going to talk about all of it with the great Patrick J. Buchanan, who is on deck. And, the question, of course, that I'll never understand is why we're not banning those flights. We'll address that with Pat. But first, we're all going to sit back, and we're going to lead into the segment by watching this.
You can't isolate neighborhoods. You can't isolate nations. It doesn't work. And people talk about, well, we shouldn't allow any flights in from Liberia. I mean, we in America, how dare we turn our backs on Liberia, given the fact that this is a country that was founded in the 1820s, 1830s because of American slavery. We have a responsibility to stay connected with them and help them see this through.
Actually, I think we should import, all residents of Liberia into the United States to end our collective guilt, whatever that might be. Joining us now, ladies and gentlemen, is Patrick J. Buchanan, best-selling author, and, of course, former GOP presidential candidate, former senior advisor to Presidents Nixon, Ford, and Reagan. Hello, sir.
How are you?
I'm great, but I got to tell you, how many scandals have you and I sat here and talked about? How many topics have you and I sat here and talked about? Now we're talking about something that, God forbid, could wipe out a significant chunk of our population in this country. And for some unknown reason, and that I cannot understand, maybe you could help me, we're still allowing flights in with people from countries that have this epidemic of Ebola. Can you explain to me why?
No, I can't. If they're coming directly from Liberia still, I think it is mindlessness on the part of the people allowing that. That is an epicenter right now of a very serious pandemic which is growing pretty rapidly. It's killed thousands of people, as I understand it. And we're not discriminating against people. We're discriminating against a disease by saying we don't want to import it into the United States.
But, Pat, the CDC director has stood in front of the press and said, it would harm the economies of these countries if we did that. Isn't that our main concern?
The CDC director is not responsible for the economy of West Africa. They're responsible for the the medical health, well-being, and safety of the American people. And we ought to do nothing which imperils that. Steve, as I talked to someone earlier, when I was a kid, I'm one of 9 kids, and we had 2 parents and a maid living all in a very small house. And when we got chicken pox, one of us, or scarlet fever, or mumps, or measles, they came by the house door and pinned something on the door which says this house is under quarantine. The reason wasn't that they disliked us or disliked big families. They were scared to death that this would spread and kill some kids.
Right.
And I understand. That is common sense. What has happened to the common sense of the leaders of this country when this kind of nonsense is being perpetuated?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, and I have no confidence in this government, in this administration to handle this. Let me ask you about Leon Panetta, another big story. There's some school of thought that, he shouldn't have written the book until after, I think Joe Biden made some reference in his own crazy way, that he shouldn't have written the book till Obama's out of office. Do you agree with that philosophy?
Personally, I do. I've been in 3 White Houses. And, I wrote one critical book, I think, of some of the Nixon policies after he left office. But, yeah, I do, basically. I think you ought to be honest in your memoirs. You ought to tell the truth. But at the same time, if you have been in the basically the confidant of the president, he's put his trust in you, and he's enabled you to sit and listen to his deepest thoughts and ruminations, I don't think you do that until the administration is over. At least that's my personal rule. Now, I like Leon Panetta, and I admire him as a public servant, but I think he should have waited until Barack Obama had left office. So I agree with Joe Biden on this one.
Okay, that's maybe a first and last time. We got about a minute left, Pat. Your great piece, Barack Obama Outside Agitator. When he was at the UN trashing America, it was like, here we go again.
Well, when he went up to, it is absurd. He was talking about some serious matters up at the United Nations. He talked about the rise of ISIS, of terrorism, its spread into Africa, and the threat it poses, and then say, we've got our own problems with the Ferguson Police Department. First, it was an absurdity. I wondered why he didn't say, look, we've got domestic spousal abuse in the NFL also. I mean, what is with this guy? But that was it's the absurdity of it. And secondly, why does he keep picking at the scab? I mean, I lived right next to Ferguson. I lived in Jennings, Missouri, which is where Darrell Wilson was a cop before he moved next door to the other one. And it's that community, read the New York Times today, is being torn apart.
I know. Pat, we're out of time, but yeah, great point. And everybody read Barack Obama, Outside Agitator. And we weren't laughing at domestic violence. We were laughing at Obama and what he brought up. Thank you, Pat. We're coming back, folks. Right. Don't go away.